Hey everyone, welcome back to our study. In today's video, we discuss top 20 Microsoft Architect interview questions and answer. So let's do start. So I have mentioned the 20 questions. First question is generally in asking the interview, it's what is your experience with cloud architect? The cloud architecture specifically in Azure. If you have already worked on, so you need to share your experience with the working with cloud architecture, specifically with the Azure part. So if you have, someone has been worked over the GCP, someone has been worked over the AWS, but if you are applying for the AWS and the Azure solution architect, so questions will be comes on related to the Azure part. So what you need to do, how we can do answer. If we have someone is asking what is, if interviewer is asking what is your experience with cloud architect, specifically with Azure. So the answer you need to give is like, what is your experience at the time of deploying and designing the solution on the Azure? Like Azure offers a wide range of services for building, deploying, and managing the applications in the cloud. So some key components you can describe like compute services, storage solutions, networking, identity and access management, monitoring and management, DevOps integrations. And if you want to do brief, so a single line statement, the single line definition you can give for the compute services, you can give for the storage solutions, you can give for the networking and identity and the access management and the monitoring and management and the DevOps integrations. So in compute service such as Azure virtual machines, Azure App Services and Azure Functions for serverless computing, so that kind of things we can do by using the compute services. Storage solutions options like Azure Blob Storage, Azure SQL Database, and the Cosmos DB for various data storage needs. In networking, features like Azure Virtual Network, Azure Load Balancer, and the Azure Applications Gateway for networking and security. So those things it's coming on inside the network. Identity and the access management by using the identity and the access management, IAM management, Azure Active Directory for managing user identities and access to resource. So these things will come on in the identity and the access management. We can also call in short is IAM management. So monitoring and management. In monitoring and management, we can say that Azure Monitor and Azure Security Center for tracking performance and the security purpose. We are using the various tools that is it's available over the Azure related to the monitoring management. In the DevOps integrations, you can say like that tools like Azure DevOps and the GitHub for the CI/CD pipeline and the version control you have used in your project. So these things you can explain in the your with your experience with your how your experience with your with cloud architecture, specifically with Azure, with specifically with the AWS. If some, you are, it's completely depends on the platform that you are using. If you are using the Azure, then you need to do give the answer respective to the Azure part. If you are giving the technical architecture as a AWS platform perspective, then you need to do give the answer as per the platform perspective, right? So this one I have given for the Azure because I am considering as the Azure technical architect. So these all the questions is related to the Azure. Next questions will come on like, if you have worked over the cloud architects, then you must be aware about that IaaS, PaaS, and the SaaS. So can you explain the difference between IaaS, PaaS, and the SaaS? So IaaS, we are aware about that, like infrastructure as a service, provide the virtualized computing service resources over the internet. So I have given the two lines and the three lines of the definitions related to the IaaS and the PaaS and the SAS. SaaS, software as a service. So for the IaaS, infrastructure as a service, provide the virtual computing resources over the internet, right? What inside the PaaS? So platform as a service offers hardware and the software tools over the internet, right? Over the internet, it means the Azure cloud provider, right? And the software as a service delivers software applications over the internet. So I have taken the one example for the for these applications. If you have the, other examples, you can with your experience you can do explain, but for the in short terms, I have given this some example, explained with example like such as Azure VM for IaaS we are using as a virtual machine. So those things will comes on in the infrastructure as a service, Azure App Services for the PaaS platform as a services. If you are creating your for your applications as a Azure App Service, then it comes inside the platform as a service. And the Microsoft Office that we are using in our offices, so 365, it comes on the software as a service, because we are not doing anything, we are just using those softwares for our use purpose. So these things is completely comes on as a software as service. So, IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS difference you can describe in the short manner, like I have written in the 3 lines. How would you design a scalable and high available architecture on Azure? So focus on the using Azure services such as Azure Load Balancer, Azure Traffic Manager, Azure Front Door for load distributions. Discuss setting of auto scaling. There is the options available for the auto scaling using Azure availability zones, leveraging Azure backups. Auto backups are available. I mean, if you want to take the backup in the every hour, every minutes, every day, so that options it's available in the Azure backup options, and site recovery over the high availability and the disaster recovery. So these options we are available over the Azure. So you can do manage by using those given tools, right? So what are microservices and how do the, I mean, next question is what are the microservices and how did they compare to the monolithic architecture? So let's first describe these words. What is microservices and how did they compare to the monolithic? So monolithic, it means whatever we are using those APIs in current manner, in the traditional manner. So those it comes and in words like monolithic architecture. Microservices, it's a divided version of the current running APIs as a monolithic architecture. So microservices involves breaking an applications into smaller loosely coupled services that can be developed, deployed, and scaled independently. Why it's required and where we need to do use the microservices, you must be aware about it because you are applying for the technical architect. So where we can do use the microservices and where we need to do use the monolithic architecture, so that we need to do discuss. And if you have this some experience with that, so you need to do explain here. In contrast, the monolithic architecture involve a single unified applications. It's a single unified applications. Discuss the benefit of microservices such as improved scalability, flexibility, and how it might be implemented on Azure and Kubernetes on Azure Service Fabric. So it's the definitions, but for the microservices and the monolithic architecture, you want to describe in brief, so you need to do first understand where we can do use the microservices and where we need to do is the monolithic. So I'm going to explain with the one example. If you're trying to use the microservices, so that is not for the small applications, because I mean it is in terms of the cost, it is also expensive with the monolithic architecture. And in terms of the uh, what we can say that in terms of the architecture dependencies with the one nodes to another nodes, that is also uh, dependency higher than the monolithic architecture, right? So in the microservices, if you have the larger applications, like we can take the example of the Amazon and the Flipkart, and we have the multiple services we need to do implement, like for the cart service, if you are adding the any products in the cart, so that service uh, if we are using through the microservices, so it's completely independent. If we are any problem with the adding cart in over the Amazon or the Flipkart, so it will only impact the cart service, not the overall applications of the Flipkart. So in the major applications part, we can use the microservices and divide those services in the smaller parts, right? So those smaller parts divided services will execute independently and execute those particular logic and tasks. So those smaller piece of service will execute for the specific applications, right? So for the major applications, we can use the microservices. In the monolithic, we have the one applications, we have the only one work to do complete. So we use the monolithic architecture, like one applications, one architecture, one service. We need to one service is connected with the one applications, and that service will only do the particular kind of things. So where we can use the monolithic architecture, there is no any dependency with the another one module to another module, and it's completely independent applications, not any dependency and the major dependency over the other components. So where we can use the monolithic architecture that we are using, I mean, in the current manner, in the traditional that we were using in our app projects, in our applications. So those are called the monolithic architecture. But for the microservices, we need to use the Docker and the Kubernetes. If you have already used, so you are aware about that, how we can do call the microservices, right? But first of all, if we are going for the microservices and the monolithic architecture, we need to first describe why and where we can use the microservices and where we can use the monolithic architecture. Next question is, describe how would implement CI/CD in Azure environment, right? So explain, I mean, using the Azure DevOps, we can implement the CI/CD part, GitHub Action for continuous integration and the continuous deployment. If you are applying for the technical architect, you have already done for your applications by using the Azure DevOps or the GitHub Actions. Azure DevOps now, it's in the coming months, it will get discontinued, because GitHub Actions have the multiple options you can do independently to do the all the things, and all the tools is also available over the GitHub Actions. By using the YAML workflow file, you can automate the CI and the CD part. Outline settings up pipelines to automate code builds, test, and deployment to Azure Service, including configurations for build agent and deployment environments. So these things you can do that by using the GitHub Actions and the Azure DevOps tools. What is the role of Azure Active Directory in enterprise environment? Right? So Azure Active Directory is a cloud-based identity and access management service. What it is used for? So it provides the authentications and authorizations for application, supports single sign-on, and integration with an premises Active Directory. So what I mean, why we are using the ADS? So explain this user securing applications and managing the user access. So there is a one options available in the enterprise environment is the Azure Active Directory. How do you approach designing a multi-tenant applications, right? So you can discuss about the strategy of ensuring the isolation and security between tenants, such as using separate database or scheme per tenant, implementing role-based access control, RBAC, and utilization Azure service like Azure API management for API access, right? So multi-tenant applications, you can discuss if you have worked over the Azure, like how we can do implement the multi-tenant applications by using the Azure API management and the API access, right? What are the some best practices for securing an Azure environment? So mention practice like using Azure Security Center for mentoring, implementing network security group energy, and Azure Firewall for network protection, enabling multi-factor authentication MFA, and ensuring data encryption both at rest and at transit. So these things you can do mention in the securing an Azure environment. How do you handle the data migration to Azure? So describe using data factory for ETL process, Azure migrate for the assessing and the moving on one premises resources, and Azure database migration service for database migrations. Highlight the considerations such as downtime, data consistency, and the validations. So I have written the single line and two line definitions how we can do describe the data migrations to Azure, how you can do handle the data migration to Azure. Explain the concept of infrastructure as a code. If you want to, I mean, go inside the brief about how we can do manage the and the migrate the Azure, then you need to do search out, and you need to do I mean, explore more over the internet, because I have given the two lines and the three lines of definitions that you can easily adopt, and you are able to do answer those questions in interview, right? So these are the particular definitions and the solid definitions that you can provide if you are giving, I mean, if you are going for the interview and giving the interview to the someone, then it will easily able to understand and to uh, provide the explorations in interview, right? Next question is explain the concept of infrastructure as code ISE and its advantage. So ISE involves the managing provisioning infrastructure through the code rather than a manual process. So if we are, I mean, ISE is a one term that it comes on if we want to provide the infrastructure, right? So without going to the manual services, we are able to do create by using the code, right? We can write the code that create the your VM, create your whatever the tools it's available over the Azure. You can able to do create over the you can create by using the code, right? So that how we can do create. So we have the ARM, I mean the Azure Resource Management templates are available. Advantage including consistency, repeatability, and automations, right? So why we are doing that? ISE. So ISE advantage is like consistency, repeatedly. If same things is coming on, we don't need to provide the manual process and assign the resource. It will completely one-time written code, and after that, it will get automatically. I mean, the automation process will get completed, and the repeated task if it comes on, then you can only need to execute the particular part of a script, right? Consistency we have, it's the same automation process that we have written. So consistency we have discussed using tools like Azure Resource Manager ARM templates, how we can do that, the ISE configuration. So we have the Azure Resource Manager ARM templates, Terraform or bicep of the ISE. So Terraform is one tool that you can do automate your infrastructure, and how we can do create, so that things we can do automate by using the Terraform tools, right? ARM templates we have available, that it will provide. You don't need to write the code by scratch. There is a template you need to do fill what you have required over the Azure. So those things you can do update in the Terraform, and those things will automatically get created by using the Terraform tool. Strategy and scenario based questions. So what kind of questions will come on related to the strategy and the scenario based questions? So first question is in the strategy and scenario based, how would you handle a situation where a project is falling behind the schedule, right? So if that question is coming like, how would you handle a situation where project is falling behind schedule? So you need to do answer like identify the causes. Obviously if something will comes on related to your project and falling behind the schedule, first you need to identify the causes, determine the root causes. Identify the causes, it means first determine the root causes of the delay. Why the project is getting delayed? Are they due to the resource constraints? I mean, that was impact because of the resource constraints, technical challenges, or scope of challenges. So those things you need to do: identify, evaluate the impact. What kind of impact will goes on if the project is falling behind schedule? So understand how the delay affect the overall project timeline and deliverable. Right? Communicate whatever the things related to the delayed is going on. You can do inform to the stakeholders. Be transparent with the stakeholders about the issues and the potential impacts. This builds trust and allows for collaborative of problem solving. Regular update, you can do update, establish a, I mean the cadence of the update to keep everyone informed about the progress and the changes, whatever the changes you are doing and whatever things is going on. So those updates you can regularly update to your stakeholders, right? So in that way you can do manage the if your project is going fail behind the schedules. So in that way you can do manage, and those experience you can do share in the interviews. Relocating the team members, revising the timelines, track key matrices, right? So those things you can do describe for these questions, like how you can do identify the root causes, how you can do manage if that situation is coming on in your project. Next question is, can you describe a time when you had to make a difficult architectural decision, right? Is there any situations it comes on that when you are doing those things, those architectural decision related to your project and the application? So share a specific example if you have the any challenges you have faced earlier at the time of the architectural decisions when you are upgrading your applications over the IaaS to the PaaS, right? So those experience you can do share here, what kind of difficulties you have faced, right? So those experience you can do share. How do you stay updated with the latest technology and the trends in cloud? So for the updated with the latest technology and trace in the cloud architect, we need to do follow the blogs and the websites. So this is our blog. It's survivestudy.com. You can also do follow for this latest technologies and the trends and what the tools is coming on and the launchings for the DevOps and related to the Azure updates and the programming updates. You can do follow these blogs. Even the other websites is also available that you need to do follow if you want to do updated related to the latest technology and trends. So those things, I mean, those options that available. So subscribe the reputed blogs, whatever the blogs you are, uh, I mean, looks like it's reputed. So those blogs you can do follow. Enroll in the online courses through the platforms, like multiple platforms are available, like Udemy, EDX, and other platforms is also available. Coursera, yeah. So those things you can do. Subscribe and enroll in the certifications, and you can do understand what the things is going on in the latest technology. Podcast and the webinars, if the multiple podcasts and the webinars are going on, so you can do attend any of them, you can do register for that. So that will also do help to understanding the cloud computing and architecture and what is the latest tools and the latest things is coming on for this technologies. Participate in the industry conferences. There's a multiple conferences going on and launching on the website. If you're going for the Microsoft, they have the doing the multiple conferences you can do attend. GitHub is also doing the multiple conferences you can do attend. So it will do help to understand the latest technologies and trends, what is going on in industries and what the latest update for the cloud architectures, right? So those things you can uh, follow and upgrade, then it will do help to update it with the latest technologies. Describe your approach to managing the cross-functional team. So how you can do manage the cross-functional team, you need to do describe, right? So discuss the strategy of communications, how we can do strategize the communications, collaborations, and the conflict resolutions. Emphasize the importance of understanding the team members, right? You need to do first emphasize the importance of understanding the team members strengths and the weaknesses, setting clear goals, and fostering a collaborative environment, right? So those things you can do explain if someone is asking to managing a cross-functional team. How do you balance the technical debate and new features development? So explain the need for managing the technical debate for periodically refactoring, addressing the code quality issue, while also focusing on delivering new features. Describe how you prioritize the task and the communicate trade-offs to stakeholders. So those things you need to describe the quality issues, how we can do identify and what is you have delivered and how you are focusing on the delivering the new features. So those things you can do describe in the technical debate with the new features development. What metrics do you use to evaluate the success of architectural solutions? What kind of metrics you have used to evaluate the success of an architectural solutions? So discuss the matrices such as performance, response time, throughput, scalability, ability to handle the load, reliability, uptimes, error rates, and the effectiveness. Mention how you use these metrics to ensure the solution meets the business objectives and the user needs, right? So I have given the 2 lines of definitions. You can do describe like how your response time it's getting increased if you have changed your existing project and the applications architecture and upgrading to the latest architecture pattern, and what kind of response time you have increased, throughput it's increased, and ability to handle the load, how we can do are able to do handle the loads and the reliability, what is the uptimes now and what was the earlier uptime. So those things and the error rates you need to describe for this evaluating the success of and the architectural solutions. You can take the example like you have the one applications on the infrastructure as a services, and that applications you have updated on the platform as a services. So those examples you can take that and explain like how your application's response time is getting increased and the monitoring tools you have used the multiple monitoring tools features that is available over the Azure, and you have configured for your applications. If your applications is upgraded on the platform as a services like Azure Insight, the application insights on the Azure, and the diagnostic tools, so multiple tools that is available that you can to manage your latest migrated PaaS platform as a service applications. So those things you can do explain here: response time, throughput, scalability, auto scaling part, reliability, like you have configured for your applications for the uptime, right? So uptime will getting notified if your application is getting failed for a second, then it's notified like your application is getting failed, right? So those things you have configured for your applications. And the error rates, what kind of error rates is getting reduced after your migrations, right? How the cost effectiveness, because in the past whatever we are using pay per scale, whatever you are using, only you need to do pay for those things, not for the whole VM that we have taken from the vendors. So those matrices you can do evaluate and the success of an architectural solutions. You can describe more because they are asking for your success of an architectural pattern solutions that you have earlier done, right? So you can do expand and describe the multiple applications that you have already done and upgraded from traditional to new technology, new architectural pattern. How would you approach integrating legacy system with modern cloud solutions? Next question is, you have, I mean, updated for the success of an architectural pattern. Next question is, how would you approach integrating legacy system with the modern cloud system? So talk about the strategies such as using APIs to connect legacy systems, adopting a hybrid cloud approach, or gradually migrating to cloud native solutions. Emphasize the importance of assessing compatibility and minimizing the disruptions to existing the operations, because I mean, if you are migrating the legacy system with the modern cloud solutions, there is a multiple things that it is unsupportable. That to those things you need to do first, mitigate and make it compatible for your new architectural pattern, right? So those things you need to do first, mitigate and make it compatible for your cloud native solutions. So those importance and assessing and compatibility and minimizing the disruptions of existing operations, so those things you can do explain inside the questions if someone is asking if you are integrating the legacy system with the modern cloud solutions. Next question is, can you describe a success migrations of an on-premises applications to Azure? Share a case study where you led or contribute to a successful migrations. Detail the step involved, including assessment, planning, execution, and the post-migrations validations. Whatever you have done, it's a same kind of questions that you have earlier discussed in the evaluate the success of an architectural solutions, right? So it's a sub part of that questions. Can you describe a successful migrations of an premises of an on-premises application to Azure? So share any case study that you have led or contributed to a successful migrations, right? So if you have done the any one of applications from traditional to cloud native, yeah, latest architectural patterns, you are able to do give and describe those same patterns, like how you have planned and execute those things. So including assessment, there is a one assessment report will get generated by the Azure side. There is a subscription, I mean, that one is the subscription based, and your applications will get scanned, and in those reports there is a multiple things will be there, like that is supportable in the cloud native and those things are not supportable in the cloud native. So all the things it's available inside the assessment report, and those things you need to do plan accordingly, how you have done the assessment report and the planning executions and the post migrations validations. After the migrations, what you have done for the validations purpose, so those things you need to do explain here. And highlight the challenges what you have faced, right? They were addressed. How do you ensure that the architecture, next question is, how do you ensure that the architecture meets both functional and non-functional requirement? Discuss how you gather and prioritize the requirements, including functional features, usability, non-functional performance, security aspects. Explain how you design and validate the architecture to ensure it meets these requirements effectively. Whatever you have done for the functional and the non-functional requirement related to your architecture meets, you need to do explain here. Related to your applications, if you have done for the one applications migrations, you are able to do and give these answers. Next question is, what is your approach to disaster recovery and the business continuity plan? It's the last questions. I mean, not for the last question from the interviewer, because we are taking the only 20 questions, so that one is the last. So outline a strategy involving regular backups, right? So multiple options are available over the Azure for the recovery, right? Outline a strategy involving regular backups. You can take that because there is options available for the Azure backups in a hour, in a day, in a month, in a week. There is a multiple options available. Whatever the priority of your applications, you can decide those options for the backup purpose. Implementing failover solutions, you can do integrate the uptimes to implement the failover solutions, like when your application is getting failed, what is the reason behind this. So those things you can do identify by the uptimes alerts, right? And testing recovery plans, what is your plan for the testing recovery. So those things you can do explain here what you have done for your applications. Mention using the Azure services like Azure site recovery, Azure backups, to ensure that system can recover quickly from disruptions and continue operations with minimal impacts, right? So whatever the things you have done at the time of migrations, those things will do ask in that interview. So only particular things and the challenges you need to do notice, and those tools whatever you have used for your applications to migrate from the traditional to new, I mean the newly architecture in the cloud native. So those things you need to do explain here, right? So these questions cover a broad range of topic relevant to a Microsoft architect role, for technical expertise with the Azure to strategic decision making and the project management. So tailoring your answers to reflect your personal experience and the specific knowledge will help you to stand out in the interview. So that is the questions and the 20 set of questions. It will do help to stand out in the interview, and describe those questions in 2 3 lines, how we can do answer those questions, and what is we need to do answer for these questions, what is the inside story. So that I have covered in this top 20 questions. Even beyond that, many other questions will come on, but for the basic purposes, not for the basic, we can say that, but we have the, I mean, top 20 expertise, and we have the idea like what the number of questions and what how it is correlated to technical architect. You are easily able to do identify by these 20 sets of questions. Those questions are easily available on the whystudy.coms by the article names top 20 Microsoft architect interview questions and answers. Yeah, thank you everyone for today session. Thanks.